morning class. Today's lesson we will be focusing on the synoptic weather map, where we'll be discussing about the two high pressure cells and the lower pressure cells. But before we go forward, I want us to check the following video.
So for our exam link here, you need to know about arid areas, which are our high pressure areas, and high rainfall areas, which are low pressure. So low pressure is where your air is rising, which leads to our high rainfall, and our high pressure areas are your sinking air, which lead to arid areas across the world. In this clip, we're going to focus on each of these different types of pressure and the types of weather and climate that occur as a result. So we're going to focus on low pressure now. So low pressure is where you have rising air. So something rises due to heat. So your warm air is rising up. We can think about this in terms of evaporation. So water particles rise up as they are heated by the sun. So this is what is happening when we have low pressure. The heating, the warming is causing your particles to rise upwards. As your particles are rising upwards, the temperature in the atmosphere starts to decrease. As the temperature in the atmosphere starts to decrease, this is going to increase your density of your air. So your particles are going to start to move closer and closer together as the temperature begins to cool. And as a result, this leads to condensation taking place. As your particles start to condense, this leads to the formation of our clouds. Once your clouds are formed, you have a high chance of precipitation or rainfall taking place.
Okay, let's look at the synoptic weather map first. We have the low pressure cell and the high pressure cell. So, if you want to check whether this is a low or a high pressure cells, we have to focus on checking the pressure here. So if you see here, we have 1996. So that means the pressure here it decreased toward the center. So that's why here we have what we call the low pressure cell. So when we differentiate these two cells, we have to check on the pressure. So let's look at the high pressure cell. If we see the high pressure cells here, it increases toward the center. That means we have what we call a high pressure cells. Right? So a low pressure cells is associated with unstable weather condition, right? And then another thing that we have to check whether this is a low or a high pressure cell, we have to check on what we call the weather station. The weather stations, they can also tell whether these cells moves clockwise or anti-clockwise direction, right? So how do we see whether this cyclone moves clockwise or anti-clockwise direction? When we see here, this is the tail of the weather station, and then this one is a hail. So when we see the movement here, it moves clockwise direction. That means here we have what we call a low pressure cell, right? And then mostly on the eastern part of South Africa, we experience too much rainfall. That's why if you see on the weather stations, the weather here on the weather station is cloudy. That means that place experiences too much rainfall, right? Then we move forward. We have this question. It says, is the pressure at cell A high pressure or a low pressure? So we've already discussed about cell A, which is a low pressure, and we also stated the characteristics of a low pressure cell, right? So for our activity, I want us to write approximately 150 to 250 words discussing the two high pressure cells studied in the impact of the local condition, focusing on Cape Town. Okay, guys, we must focus on Cape Town, the characteristics of these high pressure cells. So I'll only give you 3 minutes to complete that activity, and then after, when you're done, we'll do the corrections. Now we are on our conclusion phase. I want us to do the correction for this activity. So please kindly exchange your books. You need to mark the book. And then before we answer this question, I want us to first, because on our activity, I said you must also label B and C, right? So on letter B, what do we have here? Yeah, letter B. Yeah.
So, high pressure.
It's a high pressure, right? It's also indicated as H, that stands for a high pressure. And then C, what do you see on C? Yeah.
It's a cold front.
It's a cold front. Remember, a cold front is indicated in triangles. Then a warm front is indicated in circles. This is a warm front and this one is a cold front, right? So in focusing on Cape Town, then what can we say, like is Cape Town experiencing a low or a high pressure zone?
Currently experiencing nothing at the moment.
Okay, so
But the cold pressure is approaching.
alright. So if we let's state the characteristics of this high pressure that Cape Town is yeah, it's like to experience. Yeah.
It also said if dry wind and also low temperature, which is cold weather.
Yeah. So if you check on this western part of South Africa, mostly the weather station here, for example, this part it's clear. Even Cape Town it's clear. That means there's low rainfall in the eastern part of South Africa, right? So that's why we say that it's experiencing dry conditions. condition. And also you have to know that the high pressure cells, they are associated with clear skies and stable condition, right? And they are also known as anti-cyclone. So that's the end of our lesson. Thank you. Have a beautiful day.